evening, students. So in today's class, I will take up problems wherein you get complex poles. So in today's class, we'll see when you have complex poles, how you can calculate angle of departure. So before going to that, in the last class, we took up problems wherein the root locus was a circle. So this was the last problem what we did yesterday. So the question was like this: you had g of s, h of s as k into s plus 2 by s into s plus 1. So when we did the usual procedure and when we saw So this was the problem that was given to you, and we saw that the root locus was a circle. And we also observed that the root locus what we got was completely lying on the left hand side of the S plane. So keeping this in mind, we came to a conclusion that the system was a stable system. So we have written for scale lying between 0 to infinity, the system is absolutely stable since the entire root locus is on the left hand side. So many times in the examination, this type of question has been asked, and usually in each question there will be two sub questions in that. The first question will be to sketch the root locus, wherein you get the circle, and the second part in that. So this part will be for 10 marks, and in the second part they'll ask you to prove that the part of the root locus is a circle. So this is the second part. So many times the question has come in such a way that so just one problem you will be getting full 20 marks in that. So this is the problem. So given the question, they're asking you to prove that the part of the root locus is a circle. So you can see that the root locus what you have is a circle. So that you are supposed to prove now. So to prove that, we will consider the open loop transfer function which is given in the problem. So that is g of s h of s is k into s plus 2 by s into s plus 1. The first step what you're supposed to do is replace s by sigma plus j omega. So when you replace s by sigma plus j omega, you will get this equation as g into sigma plus j omega into h into sigma plus j omega, or you can just write it as g h sigma plus j omega like this. Okay, both are one and the same. So this is equal to k into s is nothing but sigma plus j omega plus 2 divided by s is sigma plus j omega into sigma plus j omega plus 1. So in this equation what I have done is I have taken the real parts together. So s is nothing but sigma plus j omega plus 2. So the real part in that is sigma plus 2 plus j omega, and the denominator you have sigma plus j omega, and here sigma plus 1 plus j omega. I just rearrange the terms in such a way that I have the real parts on one side and the imaginary parts on the other side. So, and one more condition. To prove that the root locus is a circle, you have to keep in mind that for every point on the root locus, every point that is lying on the root locus should satisfy the following condition. So the condition is that the phase angle of g of h into sigma plus j omega should be equal to 180 degree. So how do we find the phase angle? We have g into h of sigma plus j omega. How do we find the phase angle? Just look into the numerator, the first line here, k into sigma plus 2 plus j omega. So now if you just see this term here, k is a constant there, we will just not consider that. If you just take this numerator term, how do we find the phase angle of the numerator term here? So that is nothing but tan inverse of imaginary part by real part. So what is the imaginary part here? Imaginary part is omega, real part is sigma plus 2. So for the numerator, we can write tan inverse of omega divided by sigma plus 2. You can write in whichever order you want. So going back to this, now coming back to the denominator. Since we have the term in the denominator, the phase angle is nothing but minus tan inverse of imaginary part by real part. Imaginary part is omega, real part is sigma. So minus tan inverse of omega by sigma. Moving on to the second term in the denominator, sigma plus 1 plus j omega. Since it is in the denominator, the phase angle is minus tan inverse of omega by sigma plus 1. So now we have to consider the elements in the numerator and the denominator. So the denominator is be equal to 180 degree. So what I have done, I have taken the phase angle of the numerator and the phase angle of the denominator. I have added all of them and equated that to 180 degree because every point that is lying on the root locus should satisfy the condition phase angle of g of h into sigma plus j omega should be equal to 180 degree. Now, after we have done this, we have to now simplify this equation on the left hand side. We have to use this formula. We have the formula tan inverse of x plus tan inverse of y is equal to tan inverse of x plus y by 1 minus xy. So if you have a plus sign here, tan inverse of x plus tan inverse of y, it is nothing but tan inverse of x plus y divided by 1 minus xy. If you have a minus sign here, tan inverse of x minus tan inverse of y, then the formula is tan inverse of x minus y by 1 plus xy. So now if I use this equation, and just try to simplify this, at the time I'll just take two terms. First I'll be taking these two, I'll apply the formula, I get some answer in terms of tan inverse, and that answer what I get, I'll combine that with the second term here and simplify, and I get the equation as on the left hand side I get tan inverse of some equation which is equal to 180 degree. So if I take the tan inverse on the left hand side to the right hand side, it will become tan 180. Tan 180 is 0. So left hand side will be, after simplification I get this equation which is equal to 0. This is equal to 4 sigma square plus 4 sigma plus 2. I have added plus 2 on both the sides. So plus 2 plus omega square is equal to plus 2. So sigma square plus 4 sigma plus 4 plus omega square is root 2 whole square. And this term sigma square plus 4 sigma plus 4 is nothing but sigma plus 2 whole square plus omega square is equal to root 2 square. So this is of the this represents the equation of a circle which is of the form x minus y whole square plus x minus x minus a whole square plus y minus b whole square is equal to r square, where a and b are nothing but the coordinates. So you can see here, so this equation, it represents the equation of a circle with center -2 and 0, and the radius is equal to root 2. So you have to get this equation to the equation of the circle form. So let's look into the, I've skipped the steps here. In the previous problem, I've done all the steps. I'll just show you that steps so that it will be easy for you. So the second question was like this. G of s, h of s was k into s plus 2 into s plus 1 by s into s minus 1. So after we did all the steps, we got the root locus which was in the form of a circle. So here we saw that a part of the circle was lying on the right hand side, a part was lying on the left hand side. So we came to a conclusion that it is marginally stable. If the root locus was entirely on the right hand side, then we would have said it is completely unstable. Or in this problem, it is neither to the left hand side, neither to the right hand side. It is towards both the sides. So we say it is marginally stable or conditionally stable. So now, to prove that the part of the root locus is a circle, let us follow the same procedure like how we did in the previous problem. G of s, h of s is given to you. Replace s by sigma plus j omega in the above equation. So when I do that, I get g in g h. You can write g into sigma plus j omega, h into sigma plus j omega. But to simplify my calculation, my writing, I have written g into h of sigma plus j omega. So s is nothing but sigma plus j omega plus 2, sigma plus j omega plus 1, sigma plus j omega, sigma plus j omega minus 1. The next step, what I have done, I've just put the real terms together and the imaginary terms separately. So this will be a into sigma plus 2 plus j omega, sigma plus 1 plus j omega, sigma plus j omega, sigma minus 1 plus j omega. So after I have got this, again I have to use the condition. So what does the condition say? So for every point on the root locus, the following condition must be satisfied. So that is, the phase angle of g of h into h of j omega, sigma plus j omega, should be equal to 180 degree. Or I mean to say that the phase angle of g of s into h of s should be equal to 180 degree. So let us find the phase angle. So for the numerator term, I have two terms in the numerator, two terms in the denominator. For the numerator term, so it is tan inverse of sigma omega by sigma plus 2 plus tan inverse of omega by sigma plus 1. Denominator, so it is minus tan inverse of omega by sigma. Minus tan inverse of omega by sigma minus 1. So that should be equal to 180 degree, as I said. So now what I have done is, I have taken two terms together. So I have taken the first two terms together. I have applied the formula tan inverse of x plus tan inverse of y. So when I do the simplification, the equation will get reduced to this form. You can do this calculation separately and you can check it. It is a very simple one. Minus, I have taken minus outside here, and then again I have applied the formula to tan inverse of omega by sigma plus tan inverse of omega by sigma minus 1, and that is equal to 180 degree. Next what I will do, I have two terms now, tan inverse of x minus tan inverse of y. Apply the formula tan inverse of x minus tan inverse of y is equal to tan inverse of x minus y by 1 plus xy. So when I do that, I get the equation like this. You can see here. So next step, I just applied the formula, then it is equal to 180 degree. So now in the next step, this tan inverse, I will take it to the right hand side. So it will become tan 180 degree. Tan 180 degree is 0, so it is 0. So this numerator by denominator is equal to 180 degree. Denominator is equal to 0. So denominator multiplied by 0 will be 0. So only the numerator will now be equal to 0. So the numerator also, what I have done, I have taken the LCM, and again denominator multiplied by 0 is 0. On simplification, I get the equation in this way. So this equation I have divided completely by 2, so that I get sigma square plus sigma minus 1 by 2 plus omega square is equal to 0. I have added 3 by 4 on both the sides, so that I get this equation as sigma square plus sigma plus 1 by 4 plus omega square is equal to root 3 by 2 whole square. So this will be of the form, this equation will be of the form sigma plus 1 by 2 whole square plus omega square is equal to root 3 by 2 whole square. So you can see the equation for a circle, it is of the form x minus a whole square plus y minus b whole square is equal to r square. A is minus 1 by 2, b is 0, radius is root 3 by 2. So the above equation represents a circle with center minus 1 by 2 and 0 and radius root 3 by 2. So in this also is a very important question. So the same question, if you just look into the previous year question papers, you can see that the same question has been repeated. So this question is always asked as a sub question along with the previous part. So this will be the second part. The first part will be to draw the root locus, wherein we get the root locus as a circle. So each one will be for 10 marks. So please try to apply the formula, do the simplification, and see whether you get the same equation. So now let's move on to the next type of problems, that is wherein, so in all the problems till now, whatever we have seen that all the problems, whatever we have done till now, we had real poles and real zeros. So real poles and real zeros. But now let us take a problem wherein you get a complex pole. So when you get a complex pole, as I said, you should know that we have to calculate angle of departure. Whenever you have complex zeros, you have to calculate angle of arrival. But till now, in all the problems, whatever we had taken, we had seen that we we had only real poles and real zeros. So we had not calculated this angle of departure or angle of arrival till now. So in today's class, I will take up one problem and teach you how to calculate angle of departure. So if time permits, I'll take the second one. Otherwise, I'll just complete one problem and explain you clearly like how to calculate the angle of departure. So before I go on to problems right now, I'll just give you 1 minute time. Mark your attendance now.
Ma'am, your voice is cutting.
Mark your attendance. Mark your attendance. Can you hear me now? Okay, is my voice audible now? Is it audible clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this type of problems you have to be very careful. So the first thing, whenever you start with the problem, you will immediately get to know like what all you are supposed to find out in the problem. So these problems only by reading you cannot understand. You have to take one problem of your choice. You try to follow all the steps and try to draw the root locus. Only then you can learn this. So the root locus plot, whatever I am teaching, you have to plot it on the ordinary graph sheet. Only then you can learn. If you're doing it rough like how I have done, you will not get to know like how to, the marking and all will not be that clear. So please take an ordinary graph sheet and try to plot on that. So let's move on to the next problem. So again for this you are supposed to sketch the root locus for a negative feedback system having open loop transfer function g of s h of s is equal to k by s into s square plus 2s plus 2 for all values of k ranging from 0 to infinity. So, like in the previous problems, the first step, what you're supposed to do here is to find the location of the poles. So, where you have the poles, the location of the poles is obtained by equating the denominator polynomial of the open loop transfer function to 0. So, when we equate the denominator polynomial, we see that we have the pole at s is equal to 0, and when we solve this quadratic equation we get the poles at minus 1 plus j1 minus 1 minus j1. So you always, whenever we get a complex pole, we see that it will always occur in pair. So it is minus 1 plus j1 minus 1 minus j1. So we have two complex poles in this problem and one real pole. So number of poles here is equal to 3. Coming to zeros. So when we equate the numerator to 0, we get the location of zeros. But for this problem, we don't have, since k is the gain constant here, we don't have any zeros for this problem. So I have written this as nil. The next step is we know that the root locus branch will always originate at a pole and terminate at a zero. Just looking to the third step here. So when will this happen? The root locus will originate at a pole when k is 0 and terminate at a 0 when k is infinity. So that is what I have done in the second step. When k is 0, the points are s is equal to 0, minus 1 plus j1, minus 1 minus j1. These are the points where the root locus will originate. And when k is equal to infinity, and these are the points where the root locus will terminate. So when k is 0, root locus will originate at the poles, and when k is infinity, the root locus will terminate at the zeros. Since we don't have any finite zeros here, the root locus will terminate at infinity. So I've written s is equal to infinity, infinity, infinity. So as you see that we have three infinities, immediately you should get to know that for this problem, we have to calculate asymptotes. So once you have asymptotes, you have to calculate centroid. If you have to calculate, after calculating centroid, you have to calculate asymptotic angle. So before we go to that, the next step is to mark the root locus on the real axis. So this is your this is S plane, and we have one pole at s is equal to 0 and one complex pole at -1 plus j1 -1 minus j1. So you can see we have two complex poles which are occurring in pairs at -1 plus j1 -1 minus j1. So we totally have three poles. Now, how do we mark the root locus? So if you just consider a point here, you can just see the cursor here. So for this point, which is your cursor, for this point to lie on the root locus, to the right of this point, you should have odd number of poles and zeros. So if you just see this cursor here, can you see the cursor here? If you just observe the cursor here, to the right of this cursor, you have one pole and no zeros. So 1 is an odd number, so this point will lie on the root locus. So the root locus will be present here. Now, I'll take some point here. So to the right of this point, I see that there are three poles. One is at 0 and one pair of complex poles. So if I consider a point here, to the right of this, I have one pole on the real axis and two complex poles. So totally I have three poles, and since 3 is a complex number, this point will lie on the root locus. So what you have to do is just from 0, just mark the root locus. Mark the root locus. And after you mark the root locus, don't forget to mark the direction of the arrow mark. So arrow marks, you are marking it only on the real axis now. So the root locus will originate at a pole. So draw the arrow mark away from the pole. So it is marked away from the pole. So after we have done this, the next step is to find the number of root locus branches. So how many root locus branches you have in this problem? So number of root locus branches is equal to number of poles or number of zeros, whichever is maximum. For this problem, we have 3 poles and no zeros. Therefore, the number of root locus branches is equal to number of poles, which is equal to 3. Next point, number of asymptotes. So as I said you earlier, for this problem, you can see in the second step, we have written 3 infinity terms because we don't have any finite 0. Therefore, number of asymptotes is equal to 3. How did we get this 3? It is nothing but number of poles minus number of zeros. Number of poles is 3, number of zeros is 0. So 3 minus 0 is 3. Next, to find the centroid. Centroid is nothing but sigma A. Sigma A is summation finite poles minus summation finite zeros by poles minus zeros. So you see that where we have the poles, we have one pole at 0, one pole at -1 plus j1, and another pole at -1 minus j1 minus finite zeros. We don't have any zeros for this problem, so 0 divided by poles minus zeros, 3 minus 0. So -1 plus j1, -1 minus j1, they are also finite poles, but they are complex in nature. So don't think that the poles, whatever we get in the problems are all finite poles, and it is complex. So plus j1 minus j1 will get cancelled. So we have -2 divided by 3. So minus 0.66 is the centroid. So this is the point on the real axis where you are supposed to mark the asymptote. Next, we have 3 asymptotes. So where we have to, at what angle we are supposed to draw these 3 asymptotes is decided by the asymptotic angle, and it is given by 2q plus 1 into 180 by p minus z. So phi a is equal to 2q plus 1 into 180 by p minus z. Since we have 3 asymptotes, q will take values from 0, 1 and 2. 3 different values starting from 0. When q is 0, we get 5a1 as 60, q is 1, 180, q is 2, we get 300 degrees. So we have three asymptotic angles, and the centroid where we are supposed to draw the asymptotes. Next, this point is common. Whether we have complex pole, real pole, complex zero, anything, root locus is always symmetrical about the real axis. So whatever you get above the real axis, the same thing you get below. So it's a mirror image about the real axis what you get. So next problem. So for this problem given, so if you just remember, I have said that for the root for in order to find when you're finding the breakaway point, I said you have to keep in mind if you have two adjacent poles, you have the breakaway point. If you have two adjacent zeros, you have the breaking point. But for this problem on the real axis, you just see that you have only one pole. So you are always in a confusion whether there is a breakaway point or not. So whenever you have any such confusion, whether the root locus is there for this problem or it is not there, so the best thing is to just check it out once. So find the breakaway point. Let us see like whether the breakaway point. See, the only possible combination is since we have a pole here, the only option is we might get a breakaway point and not breaking point because we don't have any zeros at all in this problem. So on the real axis, since I have a pole, the option is that I may get a breakaway point somewhere. So whether it is there or not, for that to check, I will use the usual procedure. So the usual procedure is to find the characteristic equation. So characteristic equation is 1 plus g of s h of s is 0. Substitute for g of s h of s, I get k 1 plus k by s into s square plus 2s plus 2 is equal to 0, or k by s square plus 2s plus s2 is equal to minus 1. K equation I get minus s cube minus 2s square minus 2s. To find the breakaway point, I have to differentiate this with respect to s and equate it to 0. When I differentiate this, I get 3s square plus 4s plus 2 is equal to 0. Minus, I've taken it outside, so it is 0. I've taken it outside. So when I solve this equation, you see that we get complex roots. Minus 0.66 plus or minus j 0.471. So now, by looking into this, yes, we cannot, we cannot, if you just see this problem. So what is that breakaway point? Breakaway point is a point on the real axis. So it clearly means that the roots what we get here should be real. But for this problem, you get s is equal to minus 0.66 plus j 0.471. So if I sketch this one, I get the point somewhere here. You can just look into the cursor here. So you get somewhere here. But what is breakaway point? Breakaway point is a point on the real axis. So for the point to lie on the real axis, the root should be a real number. So we see that, so we from the roots what we have got, we can come to a conclusion that there is no breakaway point for this particular problem. Or still, if you have any confusion whether I'm not able to decide whether it is a breakaway point or not, so what you can, if you had only minus 0.66, then we would have said it is a breakaway point. But here we have got complex numbers, so it is not breakaway point. So now if you just see this, if there's one more technique to check whether it is breakaway point or not. We already have the equation for k here. We have already have the equation for k. So substitute the value of s what you have got in this equation. So if the point is a breakaway point, then the value of k what you get should be positive. For the previous problems also you can check. But since there was no necessity of that, I did not tell you. To check whether the point is a breakaway point or not, the other option is substitute that value of s in the equation for k. If you get the value of k to be a positive number, then that point is breakaway point. So now let us check this one. I'll substitute the value of s in this equation for both the values of plus or minus j point this one. So I get the value of k as again a complex number. So we see that k value, it should be positive and real. But we see that again it is a complex number. Since we are getting k to be a complex number, we come to a conclusion that the system is not having any breakaway points. So now we got to know that there is no breakaway point. So whenever you have any conclusion, just try to find whether you have breakaway point. Find the characteristic equation, find the expression for k, differentiate it with respect to s equal to 0, check for the roots. If the root is real and if it is lying on the root locus, then it is a breakaway point or breaking point. If it is a complex number, then that point you cannot consider that to be a breakaway point, because always the breakaway points will always lie on the real axis and it should not be a complex number. So this you have to keep in mind. The next point is a very important point wherein you have to calculate the angle of departure. Students, are you there? Students, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So now to find always remember, whenever you have complex poles, only then you calculate angle of departure. When you have complex zeros, you will be calculating angle of arrival. If in a given problem you have both complex poles and complex zeros, then you have to calculate both of them, both angle of arrival and angle of departure. But for this problem, luckily we have only complex poles, so you have to find only angle of departure. Just remember like this, complex, so you always know that the root locus will always originate at a pole. It will always originate, or we can say the root locus will always depart from the pole. So we have to calculate angle of departure. But when it comes to complex zeros, the root locus will terminate at the zeros. Terminate at the zeros or arrive at the zeros. So we have to calculate angle of arrival for complex zeros. For this problem, angle of departure is given by phi d is equal to 180 degree minus summation phi poles minus phi zeros. So the formula also you have to be very careful. If you are finding angle of departure is for complex poles. So first write summation phi poles minus summation phi zeros. If you are calculating angle of arrival phi a, then it is 180 degree minus summation phi zeros minus summation phi poles. But now, how to calculate this poles and zeros? Now, whenever you are calculating the angle of departure, so angle of departure is always calculated at the complex pole. So how many complex poles you have in this problem? We have two complex poles, one at -1 plus j1, the other one at -1 minus j1 and -1 plus j1. You have two complex poles. So how do you calculate this summation phi poles? So summation phi poles is nothing but from all the poles and zeros, apart from, for example, if I am calculating the angle of departure from this pole -1 plus j1. So leave this pole and see how many other poles you have. So how many, leaving this pole, how many other poles you have? We have two different poles, one at 0 and the other one at -1 minus j1. So what you have to do is join those poles to the pole which you have considered. So from 0 you mark it to join it to this one -1 plus j1, and from -1 minus j1 join it to -1 plus j1. So consider the pole which you are for which you have to consider the angle of departure. From the remaining poles, join that particular pole. After you do that, you have to measure the angle from the real axis. You have to measure the angle that the line is making from the real axis. So if you see, this pole at 0 is being connected by this line. So now you have to measure the angle from the real axis, okay. So from the real axis, it is at an angle phi p2. So this angle you have to measure. Coming to this one, This is your 5p1. This is the you have to draw a line parallel to the real axis and measure this angle from this particular axis, reference axis. So we see that this 5p1 is the angle. So when I say 5 poles, it means that it is nothing but summation of the angles that are made by the poles with the lines connecting the poles. So it is 5p1 plus 5p2. Now what is this 5 zeros? In case if I had a 0 at 1, I should have joined that 0 to this particular pole. Again, I should measure that angle with that line. So that angle would have been 5z1. So, but for this problem, I don't have any zeros. So I've just made it, I've not done anything, I've written it as zeros. Since apart from this pole, I have two poles, join the two poles with the angle, with the pole that you're considering. And those angles, whatever notation you want, I've given this as 5p1, this as 5p2, you can name it either way. You can name this as 5p1, this as 5p2. So just write 5p1 plus 5p2 minus 0. So after you have done this, how to measure the angles? So 5p2 very easily, it is 90 degree. But how do we measure this 5p1? That we have to see. So this 5p1 is nothing but this total angle. This total angle is nothing but 180 degree. Or I can say theta plus 5p2 is 180 degree. But what is 5p2? Tan 5p2 is nothing but 180 degree minus theta. You can see here I've done the calculation. So 180 degree minus theta. Just show the diagram, okay. So this angle is 180. 5p2 is 180 minus theta. But what is this theta? Theta is nothing but tan inverse of opposite side by adjacent side. So what is the magnitude of the opposite side? Magnitude of the opposite side is 1. Magnitude of the adjacent side is 1. So theta is nothing but tan inverse of 1 by 1. So tan inverse of 1 by 1 is 45 degree. So 5p2 is nothing but 180 degree minus tan inverse of 1 by 1, which is 45 degree. 180 minus 45 is 135 degree. So once you find the angle of departure for one particular complex pole, for the other one you can find it out very easily because it is the negative of the other value. So for the first one I got the angle of departure as 135 degree. So for the other complex pole, that is -1 minus j1, the angle of departure will be minus of the answer what we got earlier. So that is nothing but minus 135 degree. So I just mentioned it here. You can just see here. The angle of departure of the complex pole at s is equal to -1 plus j1 is 5d is minus 45 degree. Sorry, this is sorry. So this 5p2 I have already measured. 180 minus 45, 135. Now find the angle of departure. 180 minus 5p1 plus 5p2 minus 0. So 180 minus 90 plus 135, I get minus 145. So this minus 45 is with respect to the pole at -1 plus j1. So what is the angle of departure with respect to this pole? -1 minus j1. Minus 45 is equal to plus 45. So now I found departure with respect to both the poles. So find it for either the top pole or for the bottom pole. The procedure remains the same. The next step is the usual one, to find the point of intersection on the j omega axis. So as usual, find the characteristic equation. So already we have the characteristic equation. Enter that in the rule theory table. For the system to be stable, what is the condition? All the elements of the first column should be greater than 0. So 4 minus k by 2 should be greater than 0. Or 4 minus k should be greater than 2. Greater than 0. 4 should be greater than k, or k should be less than 4. The last one, k should be greater than 0. So for stability, k should lie between 0 to 4. But now what is that we are trying to find? We are trying to find for the point in order to find the point of intersection of the root locus on the imaginary axis, the odd power of s should become odd power of s rho should become equal to 0. Odd power of s means s cube is there, s1 is there. This 1 and 2 I cannot make it 0 because these are already constants. The only option is s power 1 rho should be made equal to 0. So in order to make this s power 1 rho as equal to 0, it clearly means that 4 minus k by 2 should become equal to 0 in order to get a row of all zeros, isn't it? So 4 minus k by 2 is 0. I get 4 minus k as 0. K is equal to 0. Once I get a row of all zeros, find the auxiliary equation. Auxiliary equation is nothing but the even polynomial which is obtained by using the row just above the 0 row. So auxiliary equation is 2s square plus k is equal to 0. So 2 into s square plus k value is 4 here. Substitute k as 4 equal to 0. 2s square is minus 4. S square is minus 4 by 2, which is minus 2. This is equal to plus or minus j root 2. Plus or minus j root 2 is plus or minus j 1.414. So we have got the point on the imaginary axis through which the root locus should pass. So now I've got the value. Now let us see how to draw the root locus. The first steps and all, I think it is clear. First step is to mark the poles at 0, at minus 1 plus j1 and minus 1 minus j1. So after we have done that, mark the arrow mark on the real axis. So I have marked the arrow mark, the root locus, everything are marked. Then what I'm supposed to do, I have to mark the asymptote. Asymptote I got it as for a centroid. The centroid I got it as minus 0.66. Mark the centroid. At that centroid, I have to mark the three asymptotes: asymptote 1, asymptote 2, and asymptote 3 at angle 60 degree, 180 degree, and the other one is 300 degree. So I have not marked the angles as I said you. The diagram will look very clumsy. So avoid marking the angles. So the three asymptotes are marked here: asymptote 1, asymptote 2, asymptote 3. You have to use protractor and you have to measure the angle from the real axis and mark. So after you have done that, so now we got the angle of departure. So the angle of departure at minus 1 plus j1 is minus 45 degree. So keeping the protractor, keep your protractor here with 0 as the reference. With this pole as the reference and the real axis, mark minus 45 degree. Minus 45 degree will come below this dotted line. So mark that line. You can see I just marked the dotted line here. Similarly, keeping this as the reference and draw a parallel line parallel to the real axis. Keep that line as the reference, this as the pole as the center, and mark plus 45 degree. You get this dotted line. And then you have found the points on the imaginary axis. Plus j 1.414 and minus j 1.414. Mark it. So now you can see. So one root locus which originated at k is equal to 0 will terminate at a pole at s is equal will terminate at a 0 which is at infinity. So I have written k tending to infinity. It originated when k is 0, terminating here when k tends to infinity. The other two will also terminate at infinity, at a 0 at infinity, in such a way that it will go parallel to the asymptote what we have drawn. So parallel to the asymptotes we have already drawn. So you have to draw the root locus parallel to that, but it has to, the root locus should leave that pole or depart that pole at an angle minus 45 degree, pass through the imaginary axis at j plus or minus j 1.414, and then it has to go parallel to the asymptote so that it can terminate at a 0 at infinity. Similarly here, the root locus departed at an angle 45 degree. It is passing through minus j 414 and it will terminate at a 0 at infinity. So like this you get the root locus. So in this problem you see that some part is on the right hand side, some part is on the left hand side. So the system is marginally stable or conditionally stable. So we have also found the range for stability. For a system to be stable, k should lie between 0 to 4. So the next problem we shall take up in the next class. So before that, all these problems are from Ganesh Rao. Please take any problem of your choice and you can start practicing the problems. So if you have any doubts in between, you can ask me anytime. You can call me or you can mail me. Any doubts you have, I'll just repeat it again so that you can understand it better. So for now, for today, I'll stop the class here. Please do practice the questions. Take the problems from the question paper or from anywhere and you have to practice the problems. Root locus, just by reading you cannot understand, you have to practice it. So now I'll end the class now. Bye for now. So please practice the notes. So okay, so whatever part I've done till now, so this part I'll be circulating the notes today in the Google Classroom. You can use that note. Or if you have Ganesh Rao textbook, it is the same thing. But for you to understand, I've just made the step single. Okay, I'll be circulating the notes today. So whatever I've done, I'll circulate that part today. Okay, so have a nice day. So please don't miss root classes, root locus classes, because it is very difficult for you to understand later. Okay, so bye for now. Have a nice day.